So, welcome everyone to day one, week one of the IoC Skills Bootcamp for Data Science and Cloud Systems. I'm hoping that you're all in the right place, but if you're not, or if you think you should be in the Cyber Bootcamp or have any concerns or anything, please let me know throughout the session and we'll try and sort those out. I think it's important to highlight and frame where we are and what we're doing over the next 16 weeks, but more generally than that this is a partnership, this course. Although you're being taught this at Birmingham City University, of which I'm a member, and I'll introduce myself formally in a moment. But BCU has teamed up with the Institute of Coding, which is a multi-university network where we're trying to provide teaching, training, upskilling, and research opportunities for students, employers, from people who aren't students and have been in the job for decades even, and to make sure that people have those important coding and programming skills that will then push them forward as an organisation or as an individual. And ultimately, this is part of a plan for jobs. So it's a Department for Education funded bootcamp, which is why you're all able to come here free of cost. But this will be an investment from your own time. And we're very much hoping and planning that you'll be developed significantly over the next 16 weeks and able to get a job in data science and cloud systems, in cyber, in any core area that you're interested in. So that's my main job. I always like to try and introduce myself early on in sessions like this, mostly because I think it gives some credence for why I'm competent enough to be able to lead this and to be able to teach you. And iron out some of those issues early on. So just in case the video wasn't working, we have a nice big picture of me there, just for record. So in terms of my academic background and why I'm working at BCU and why I'm running this, so I started out as an 18-year-old, loved maths, liked business, thought I'll do the two of those at uni without much of a plan. So I went on to Aston University and set myself up on a trajectory to become an accountant. So I did 2 years, did very well in the maths and business parts and finance modules, went and worked for RSM Tenen, which is one of the top 8 accounting firms. I think it's 8th or 7th now. So absolutely massive international accounting firm as an accounts associate. So I was doing lots of different people's management accounts, reporting, financial reports and things, tax obligations and payroll. So I worked on behalf of lots of different companies. Spent a year doing that, doing an awful lot of accounting. I decided after that year that I hated accounting and that it wasn't for me. No offense to anyone who's got a background in accounting, but I just got bored counting other people's money. So I went back to Aston University after that placement year and really ploughed into the maths side and decided that I really wanted to get on with maths and that I just needed a job where I could just sit in a room and do maths all day. And when I told that to people, they'll turn and said, no such job exists. You can't do that, possibly. So then I went on to do a PhD, which was funded, where I got to sit in a room and do maths all day. And a lot of you probably hate maths, and I get that a lot, or hated maths when you've been taught it before. We'll come back to that later on, okay? But so I spent 3 years working as a PhD student at Aston University in conjunction with Thales Underwater Systems. So I was working on sonar systems in the defence industry, and some of it was classified, some of it isn't. Generally, it's beyond the scope of what we're going to do on this bootcamp, what I was actually doing in the AI machine learning there. But it's all helped to shape who I am. The fact that I did an applied project with an awful lot of data that was really badly formatted or not ready for processing. So it helps when I talk about data cleaning and data modeling, data manipulation, and the pipeline to get a data project up and running. And that's all going to be important stuff for you to understand when you're going for jobs. After 3 years working at Aston as a PhD student and Thales, I passed my Viva and became a doctor of applied maths. And then I decided I wanted to get out of the defence industry because I had some ethical obligations to some of the advanced areas in defence that I was potentially leaning towards. So I didn't want to get involved in tracking systems, for instance. So I jumped out of defence and then thought, what on earth can I do with these skills, though, where I've learned how to identify anomalous patterns or unusual behaviour in weird signals. So a postdoctoral research position opened up at Aston in partnership with Birmingham Children's Hospital. So I worked with a consultant intensivist So people who are, on the front line of keeping very, very sick babies and children alive over prolonged periods so that they can get the medical interventions and sort all of the different structural problems that are wrong with those children. So I worked with a doctor there, and the consultant, we worked on 2 different wards where we had wireless sensors strapped to the children and to the babies, and we're getting data out of them and trying to predict, or my main job was to predict and create algorithms that would notify doctors in advance if a patient was likely to deteriorate or to get better. So after 2 years working on that intensively, we managed to get something like 12 hours advance notice if there was going to be a cardiac arrest, which is a really serious life-changing event for a child or for a baby to undergo, and often means that they'll bounce into the intensive care and need a lot of treatment after the fact. So being able to prevent that, particularly important. And again, that involved a lot of data processing, data cleaning, data manipulation, and just understanding vital signs and heart rate, for instance. So how many times the heart beats in a baby or in a young child is massively different depending on what on earth's wrong with them, but also compared to an adult. So after 2 years there, I decided I needed to learn more about teaching, particularly online teaching, given the rise of that in the field. So I jumped to Arden University, which you may have heard of. They have massive marketing campaigns and are an international, primarily distance learning university. So I was a teaching fellow there in data analytics and data science, and taught master's level courses at first. So after people had done their undergraduate or BSc, I was teaching the MSc level. So trying to give that more structural overview in terms of data and AI. After a couple of years there, I decided I wanted to make some changes to courses and to make some improvements around there, and got promoted up to being a course leader for data, a course leader for computer science, and then a head of school job opened up. So I became the head of school at Arden for computing and information technology. In essence, my boss was the most senior academic in the university. So quite a serious management position there after a couple of years of joining Arden. And I did an awful lot of learning about the university system, but also the jobs market in general. So I'm quite versed in background, people working while studying, people trying to get that career jump or career sprint going, and in a very short period. After about a year in that job of head of school, I decided I was really fed up of management and politics, and decided I had enough and I wanted to get back to doing some research and some teaching. So I joined BCU in the data science department, and I started in December 2019. So I've been here almost a couple of years, just under 2 years, and I've been promoted to associate professor in artificial intelligence. Okay. I'm in charge of a few different aspects of BCU, one of which being our first year on all of our computing related courses. So I've got a lot of experience with people coming in without much computing background here at BCU. I'm in charge of the Masters in Artificial Intelligence as well, which is a conversion course. And you're starting to see a theme, hopefully, here where I'm taking people who've got all sorts of backgrounds, some with engineering, some with business, some with creative design, one with music technology, all sorts of different academic backgrounds coming onto that Masters and upskilling people in that intensive year to being experts in artificial intelligence and data science, and then getting to see the projects that they're doing at the end has been really, really rewarding. So I'm in charge of that course. I've got a couple of different odd research projects milling around here and there, which I'll talk about in a few weeks' time, I think, as they become relevant. And I'm in charge of teaching and learning at the advanced levels as well. So that's sort of me in a nutshell. I'm very much, my teaching style is I get carried away a lot and talk quite a bit sometimes. And so I need shutting up and I need questions firing at me as and when they arise. Okay, so that's an important thing to note. So just jump in at any point if you've got a question. Also, I get run away with a lot of tangents as well. Now, often if I bring in a tangent, I've decided that it's worthwhile for me to spend the time going into. But if I start doing that too much, let me know. This course is, there's a lot of scope for what areas we focus on and what applications and examples we give when we're doing all of the cloud and the data things. So if you're interested in a particular area, let us know, let me know, and we'll try and fold that into our examples. Okay, I'll share a little poll about that later on. So I'm going to be leading this course and managing it over the whole 16-week period, but I'm not going to be doing the teaching of every session. Okay, so I'm going to be leading the first few weeks as we go and talk about some of the cloud aspects, and then I'm going to be setting up to make sure that you're all prepared for when Stephen comes along and leads you through the subsequent 12-ish weeks of the course, and I'll be dropping in here and there to give specialist sessions. Okay, so Stephen Jacobs is a visiting lecturer in artificial intelligence and is currently completing a PhD with myself. He has a bachelor's degree in physics and a different bachelor's degree in computing. Okay, so eminently qualified to teach you about computing, cloud, and AI systems. Steve's got a PGCE and an MA in computing education as well. He's got a lot, and I mean an awful lot of experience in technical planning, resourcing at some major telecoms companies, including EE, Nokia, Ericsson, and NEC. So he's worked nationally and internationally in fault finding, project management, and breaking in new teams, identifying faults. In terms of teaching experience, he spent 5 years in secondary teaching. So he automated the examination, marking, and formative feedback process for students there to get much quicker and more valuable feedback to them. He spent 2 years as the head of physics, where he designed from specifications complete schemes of work, including resources for all of the junior team as well. So an eminently qualified teacher and accomplished as well. After a couple of years as head of physics, he decided he wanted a break and to try and push forward with an idea that he developed during his master's in computing education, and that's why he came to me to do a PhD. I'll let Stephen introduce his actual PhD topic when he comes on in a couple of weeks' time, because I think it'll make more sense at that period. But he's also taught for me on the MSc Artificial Intelligence and other guest session slots as well at BCU. Okay, so I'll be leading the first part of the course and dropping in here and there. Stephen will be picking up after that, but I'll be overseeing the whole delivery and the outcomes for everyone. Okay. So I think it's important for us to frame the whole boot camp and try and put down some timeframes and some broad topics today. I don't want to go into too much detail about the technical aspects here because it just won't mean anything, or it might seem quite intimidating for people. Okay, so I want to make sure that we're all comfortable with this and think of the timeframes and that it's there, but it's in pencil. Okay, there's always plenty of time for us to move things forwards or backwards and add in extra bits if it's going to be valuable to people. Okay, the remit I was given though is that we need to teach you about cloud. We need to teach you about AI and data, and we need to make sure that you can all walk into an interview and sell yourselves well after this course. That was the whole remit for the 16-week course that we've got and set up. So in terms of the structure for this bootcamp, I've put October, November, December, and January here. Obviously, a bit of September has been crimped from this week, or the start of this week, and we don't finish at the end of January. We finish slightly before then. Okay, but in October, we'll be online with myself. So that'll be 10 till 12 every day, Monday to Friday. But we won't be doing live video call sessions every day. And part of the reason for that is because at the end of this, you need to be working independently. And I find the easiest way to get people working independently is to early on give you independent things to do. So what we will be doing is having some live sessions each week. So Mondays, Fridays, we'll have a live session definitely, and either Wednesday or Thursday, and I'll tell you which of those will be a 2-hour session where I'm either presenting or teaching something, and there's interaction there. And then on the other days, so Tuesday and the other one of Wednesday or Thursday that we're not doing a live video session, I will be online and we will be messaging each other, but you'll be working independently to do something. And I'll give you an example of one of those, the activity that you'll be doing tomorrow. So it's not all just me in front of a camera talking for 2 hours each day. Okay, that'd be really boring. Even I get fed up with that. I can't talk that much. So that's the structure I will use. Then Steve's going to pick up, and Steve uses a slightly different teaching framework to me. So he'll be online every single day, Monday to Friday, but he breaks up his sessions in the middle with independent activities and things going on there. So that's how he's going to be developing you. And that'll get us to sort of mid-November. the first 8 weeks, and then the second 8 weeks of our 16-week course are in person with Steve every day. So Monday to Friday, and I believe it will be from 9 till 12. Then you get an hour for lunch, and then 1 till 2:30 you'll have employability sessions, and you'll be merged with the cyber bootcamp as well. That's to make sure that you all, because you all need the same employability work doing, from what we understand and the background information that we have. Everyone's at slightly different stages, but the skills and the techniques that we're going to teach you to help you in interviews, in writing your CVs, in that digital online presence, they're going to be the same. So larger cohort, better group discussions, development and aspects, given you're working with other different technical people. We'll have a break for Christmas from the 17th of December. Okay, so you get a few weeks off then. Time spent with families if you have them, or just taking stock and looking at the job market. One thing I will highlight close to the time, but Boxing Day is a very, very important day for you. It might be for your family or personally anyway, but Boxing Day is the day when the most job searches happen nationally. Okay, Christmas has died off. People with families have, had that busy day. Boxing Day, you sat around. The thing that people do whilst they're sat around is take stock of the year and then start to think about what they want to do differently next year. That whole idea of New Year's resolutions, they start slightly early for a lot of people. So the 26th of December is when you need to be looking online for jobs and reading about them, preparing to think which ones might be suitable for you, what pays enough for you, what's going to be the best career step for you. Okay, so December 26th is that. It's also the day when they get the most searches on things like Rightmove and for housing websites as well. We'll start back in January bright and early on the 3rd, and I believe this is the same time that lots of schools are going to be starting back as well, from my understanding. The bootcamp will then run until the end of January, so about the 28th of January is when we're expected to close the bootcamp. Okay, but that's not when your time with BCU finishes at all. You see, from the first part, just to do with this bootcamp, we want to make sure that you're getting interviews and hopefully getting employed. That's our goal, to get you a job. Okay, so anything that we can do after that point, references, additional support, meetings, coaching, whatever, let us know and we'll see what we can do. Okay, we can't guarantee to be able to directly allocate you an hour a week of coaching time from myself or from Stephen, but our careers team are very, very supportive to our whole alumni base. Okay, because you'll be part of BCU, especially part of the computing school at BCU forever. Okay, so you can always call on us later on if you need to, for references, for projects, for upskilling. If you think, I've done this bootcamp, I need to know what else we can do, well, come and talk to us and we'll say, actually, you know what, you really benefit from doing this, be it this degree, this master's, this course, that digital badge, that skill. Okay, so your time doesn't just end in January. Now, in terms of what we're going to be doing, this is a bit potentially unusual, given me throwing in some of the more technical terms here, but just as broad headlines, we're going to spend the first few weeks on cloud systems and get that out of the way, to get onto what I consider the interesting stuff, data and artificial intelligence, because you'll need to know about cloud systems, you'll need to be familiar with what they look like and the general nuts and bolts of them, but after a boot camp, you won't be expected to be able to set up a cloud infrastructure at all. Okay, that's just not how that works from where you currently are. So we're going to get you upskilled in terms of the nomenclature of the terminology of clouds, how they kind of work, and we're going to be using the Microsoft certification along this course the whole way. So you're going to do the Microsoft Azure, so that's their online system, so the Azure AZ900 exam. Okay, that may freak you out a little bit, the idea that we're going to be doing an exam. Please don't panic. Okay, 1, it's a few weeks away. 2, we'll get you absolutely ready, and we have a very, very high success rate with teaching and getting people to pass those. And it's not the end of the world if you don't pass. But we're going to be teaching you towards that, because if you pass, that then goes on as a digital badge onto your LinkedIn profile, on your CV. You can say that you've passed that, and that's a kite mark for quality there. So it convinces an employer that you've got those base skills, and that's really important. So we'll look to do that around the 15th of October. Now, often I teach data science in an applied way, and I jump straight into some Python coding. You might have heard of Python. It's a programming language. So you programming that to get the computer to do a job for you, to automate the data analysis problem, to be able to do what you can't do as a human. If I were to give you customer records for what everyone's bought at Morrison's this morning, there'd maybe be 1,000 different people that have shopped there. I mean, I know it's early, but they're very busy at the moment. So if 1,000 different people have bought there, if I just asked you a simple question like, well, how much did everyone spend in total? How much money did we make as Morrison's shop? Well, you're not going to know. It's going to take you ages to add that up on a calculator even. But we can automate things, like data analysis have parts like that by using programming language. Now, normally I would jump straight into that from the cloud, but we thought we were trying to maximize your employability and your skill. So we've decided to bolt in the Excel and statistics. So 2 weeks on those two aspects. So Excel will be a full Excel course, and there's an Excel certification that we're going to be looking to arrange for you. I haven't got an exact date for that yet because we're still finalizing that and finalizing the numbers that will be taking the course. But it's a great certification. Again, it looks very good on your CV. People expect you to be familiar with Excel in the workplace generally. And it's been one of those things I've found that if you can use Excel very well, you will always be valuable in an organization, even if the job you're doing has nothing to do with Excel. Because there's always someone nearby you who is using Excel, whether they're a manager, a project manager, an accountant, someone in HR, just an administrator. Even to do simple things like send an email to 100 different people, you can do that very quickly in Excel. Might not make sense right now, but we'll come to that later on, so don't worry. But we've got a whole Microsoft certified course that will teach you along the way, get you set up and get you through the Excel certification. And then there's a week on statistics that I'll be looking to set up, and it'll be at that crunch point by there, it'll be either myself or Stephen running that. But that'll be a basic and very practical hands-on statistics introduction. It won't be lots and lots of this is X, this is Y, this is, all that stuff. No. Here's some numbers. Let's see what we can understand about those. Okay, and that's the point at which I need some feedback from all of you to say what areas you're interested in. Are you interested in statistics and data science and artificial intelligence used in finance or in marketing or in business or whatever areas? So we'll come to that later on. I'll talk more in detail there. After we've upskilled everyone and made sure you're comfortable with Excel and done a bit of work on statistics, we'll move on to the data science aspect and some Python. So data cleaning, I've mentioned already a couple of times. So there's data all around us and most of it is in a right mess. Okay, so if you want to do anything with it, we need to clean it up. We'll do a data project early December, so we'll spend a week on that. And although that won't be certified with like a Microsoft course or anything, that will go into your own portfolio. What I want by the end of this course is not only that we've upskilled you, that we've got a record of that. So we're going to be keeping lots of records of the things that you do just for our own information, and because the Department for Education want evidence about what you're doing and what we're teaching you and how that then impacts and gets you a job. They're very interested in this to try and maximize employability in people. But more than that, I want a portfolio, a thing that you can just whack down on the table if you get to an interview, or send across just before you get interviewed. It's a cheeky thing I often do, and I'll talk about that later on in the course when we're doing interview prep. But just sending a little email with a little portfolio of extra stuff beyond your CV, just say, oh, by the way, here's just some extra information about me and stuff I've done. And it shows that you're more than just a two-dimensional person. Okay? So having that portfolio of activities, of stuff you've done, of data visualizations that you've created, of data analysis projects or reports that you've written, if you can just whack that out on an interview on the table or send it over, and they can just flick through and say, wow, this person's made some really great information visualizations. They really understand data principles. They've written a very high quality report. All of a sudden it convinces them more and more that you're the right person for that job and the best candidate. After that data aspect, we'll be going on to artificial intelligence. Okay, now we are not going to be doing absolutely cutting edge driverless car simulations and predicting stock market values 3 years into the future. Okay, well, that's just not appropriate here. But you need to understand the terminology, the information around AI, and how to do a couple of more simple and basic but useful to organizational level things in AI. And to do that, we're going to make sure that you're prepped and ready to do the Microsoft Azure AI 900 course. Okay, so we've got all the presentation material, practice exams, all the stuff, and that will be at the end of January, just in the last week of the bootcamp that we'll be doing that. Okay. So that is the general layout technically for the course. Okay. Now, I've talked an awful lot already, so what I wanted to do was to just spend a bit of time on this. This is an activity that works great in person, and we're going to very much try it and see how well it works online. It'd be slightly harder without the chat, but what I'd like people to do is to just think about what your hopes are for this course and for over the next 16 weeks, plus the Christmas break, and going into next year, and for getting a job in what's your hopes and what are your fears? What are you scared of at the moment? Are you concerned about the technical level that we're going to be talking about? Are you concerned that you're going to be wasting your time? Just have a think for a minute or two, and then if you want to either post in the chat, post hopes, and or message me or email me those. So if we'll just do that for the next couple of minutes, have a think about those, email or message them over, and then I'll get them up on these post-its or virtual post-its so that we can share them, because there's going to be a lot of similarity between all of you, I'm sure, things that you're hopeful for and concerned about. Okay, so we'll spend 2 minutes on that. Just have a think and then message me your hopes first of all, and I'll get them typed up.
Iain, would you be able to give me your email address, please?
I was about to share it in the chat and realised that just wouldn't work. So it's ian.rice@bc.ac.uk, but my name is spelt the Scottish way, so it's Iain.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ken, for sharing that. So I'll stick that up on the first post-it.
Yeah, so a bit of the context is I work in logistics, and a lot of the work I've done, it wasn't necessarily what I'd been brought in for, but I saw kind of gaps in the industry where we were taking data and cleansing it, or there was a team of people doing manual tasks where they were going into the let's say SAP, for example, like going into different screens and pulling out information to make judgment calls, and I realized that I could automate that. And so I automated that whole process. But the problem I have is because I'm mostly self-taught and I've figured it out. When I come to try and explain what I've done, I don't have the kind of the contextual phraseology to do that. So that's one of the things I want to get out of this is I think there'll be skills and things that I can learn from this as well. But that's I think a gap that I have is just being able to very clearly articulate this is the problem that I've faced and this is the solution that I offered. Because right now I kind of stumble through it and they understand, but it's a bit of a messy exchange, if that makes sense.
That absolutely does, yeah. So yeah, hopefully we'll very much be able to work through that and to get some of the common, let's say, terminology, the vernacular going there, and there's an awful lot of information and context in words that we often underappreciate as humans. And it's only when you start to work with, say, machines or AI systems that you realise how complicated communication and words and vernacular is, and why it's so important. So we absolutely need to make sure that that's coming across, and that then that they appreciate and understand the level that you're working at properly, because they will obviously underappreciate that if they don't see you using the right terminology. So we can definitely work on that. Okay, we've got our first fear coming as well, so thank you. I can only see people's email addresses for some of you, so I haven't got everyone's names.
I think another one I can't be bothered writing. Sorry. I think another one I have is I had a conversation with somebody, and some of the stuff I'd done I'd written in Microsoft Access, and he was he kind of politely said that that's a bit of an antiquated way of working, and so there's a lot better tools. And so I've done some stuff on Google BigQuery, but yeah, just kind of learning the more recent, because I only know what I've been taught. So yeah, expanding my horizons as to what has become available.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll talk a little bit about databases, and from the cloud perspective, there's some examples on SQL databases. You may have heard of that terminology. So don't worry if you haven't. There's going to be lots of acronyms, lots of terminology and things, and we're all going to learn how to investigate what those actually mean and to be able to teach each other about those whenever we find out about them. There's going to be some stuff that's going to be specific to your organizations if you're in them or working in those areas at the moment, that we're not going to be able to anticipate up front. But if there are particular words or scenarios or things that you need preparing for, let us know. At the end of the day, this content and the ideas, or the content is fixed in terms of what we want to teach you. The context is completely flexible, and both myself and Stephen are, adept enough educators, I think, to be able to try and bring in examples, scenarios, and information that may be useful. So we've got some more hope here to have a great understanding of data science. Yeah, I very much will try and give that over the next few weeks. The more you learn, especially from an academic perspective, we say the further you research and get into something, the more you realize how little you know about it, because you understand the gulf and the scale of what's going on there. But we need to make sure that you understand the tools, techniques, terminologies to make value for an organization, and being able to apply them in a business life. That is a great one that we're very much keen on, especially at BC. We are an applied institution, so hopes Okay, thanks, Georgia. So we've got hope and a fear there. So I'm going to separate the two of these out now. Time is an important one for all of us. Getting head around Python. Okay. Okay, I've just had a couple come in through email, so I'm just getting these going. Okay. So I think we've all had a chance to list some hopes and fears there. But if there's any that you wanted to get on, now's your chance, either through the chat or email quickly. But I'm just going to work around these a little bit. We've already talked a little bit about a couple of them, but I think it's quite important for us to spend a bit of time thinking about this. So what I'll just do is bring the slides back up when we carry on. Okay, so we've already talked, obviously, from Kemp's point of view about the data vernacular, the terminology and things, and I think this sort of feeds into some of this fear that we've got over here about competency-based questions. We'll do the hopes first, I think. So another hope to be able to learn, so Excel, particularly cleanse or clean data visualization. Absolutely, we're going to spend a week on doing that and doing that well. It's an area that I'm particularly passionate about. Data manipulation using SQL. So SQL is a database language. So we will spend a bit of time looking at some of the nuts and bolts about SQL from a cloud perspective. I think we can try and see if we can understand, do some examples of SQL properly hands-on with database. We weren't going to do so much of that because that's typically outside of the data science remit, or data analytics is generally dealt with by other teams, but we can see if we can fold that in, absolutely. Being able to deal with different formats of data. Data is always generally in different, from project to project. It's stored, managed, manipulated, and of a different quality. Okay, what works for one project won't work for the next in all likelihood. So yeah, we need to make sure that you're comfortable working with different types of data. That's back to this hands-on. We're just going to throw data at you or get you to find data of your own from online or from your own organizations if you're working to be able to work with. To getting an understanding of the scope, scale, in multiple different ways of data science. That's going to be very important for us, getting you comfortable with the different areas that works in and how it's applied, and being able to make sure that you can apply that in your business life. Yeah, it's really important that, because and I say this often to people, more from the data visualization and reporting side, that if you've spent 6 months on a data project, and that that could be even a small data project can take 6 months in a decent sized organization. 6 months on a data project, if you report that badly or give bad visualizations of that, despite the outcomes being very good from the data project, then you have probably wasted 6 months because it won't be taken on board by management. Okay, reporting, presenting, and informing about a data project is massively important. So we're going to be working with you from this week onwards on your presenting and your reporting skills. Okay, I even have a slot on Friday for us to do for everyone to do some presentations very early on, very minimalistic in terms of technical content, but we want you practicing doing that, and it's going to be uncomfortable for some of you, I'm sure. Presenting doesn't come naturally to everyone, and it's not easy, but we need to make sure that you're getting those skills built up and getting more and more comfortable. Okay, I'm a massively socially anxious person and don't like dealing with other people, massively introverted, but I've over years become very comfortable with presenting and with teaching. So I don't like talking to more than 2 or 3 people at a time socially. Put me in front of 400 people and I can quite easily talk for 2 hours about data structures and algorithms and AI. And that's all down to practice. So we need to make sure that you guys are doing that practice too. Okay. Next up, we've got here learning and understanding cloud computing and how to apply AI in Python. Now, Python is going to be our predominant AI language. There are a few different ones that you can use. Typically, they end up being Python, R, and Java. Okay. 2 biggest ones out of those will be Python and Java, with R in the background. We're going to go with Python because of how easy I think it is to teach and pick up, and because Python is the predominant language in AI to a large extent, because the big organizations like Microsoft and most prominently Google and researchers like me at other institutions, we give away our code in Python for free, our models that we create. Some of the best image recognition algorithms, so the ones that are best at looking at pictures and deciding what's going on and reacting based on those, were created by Google and by the Oxford University Research Group. And they're easily usable, and you can just load them straight into Python and off you go. Okay, so loads of the apps, if you've got any apps, or kids have got the apps where it looks as takes at someone's face and then makes their face look silly or cartoony, or something's going on with that. Well, those are all built on Google's and Oxford University's visual image recognition algorithms and code. So they've not even done any of the heavy lifting. All they've done is decided when the company's made that app is just what the cartoon picture will look like. The facial tracking or recognition algorithm all comes from someone else. So that's why we need to make sure that you're using the most common languages and getting your skill built up in those. And finding a job in cloud and AI. We're going to make it very easy for you to find jobs. We're going to start tomorrow at getting you to look for jobs and dissecting what those jobs are, what you actually have to do, what journey you think you need to go on from where you are right now over the next 16 weeks and beyond to get that job. Okay, we're going to do this in 2 phases. We're going to do a job for after this bootcamp. We're going to find a couple of those each, and then a job for later on in your career where you want to be based on what the job market looks like now. So whether that's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line. Maybe you're not looking for that, and that's fine, absolutely. But we're going to look at the short term and the longer term as a group. In terms of fears, time is going to be a big one. Okay. Now I'm fully aware this is an intensive boot camp, and some of you have. Oh, sorry, I've got a hand raised there from Mark Francis. So I'll stop just in case I was going to move on before your point. So if you want to jump in now.
Yeah, apologies, Ian. So I had sent some hopes and fears via the chat directly to you, but I don't think you've received them because it looks as if you're all showing offline. So my major fear is I'm currently in full-time employment.
Yep.
So I'm going to have difficulty, like I've had to take time out of my day-to-day to attend this call.
Yeah.
So I was initially given the impression that the course bended and flexed to allow you to encompass it in your normal day-to-day 9 to 5, whereas I'm not going to be able to take that portion of my day for 2 hours and attend this call. Luckily enough, I've managed to get away with it today because I've got conference calls for the latter part of the day and migrations this evening. Yep. But thus far, the course is something that I certainly do wholeheartedly want to be able to complete, but I'm going to struggle attending the sessions during normal working hours.
Okay.
So that's my main fear. I want to be able to commit. So just to give you, I currently work in the telecoms industry, so it seems to fit perfectly in with my day-to-day job. And I've kind of realised with the onset of the current climate, I was recently put out of work that I need to enhance and upskill my skill set. So this course is ideal for me, but it's just fitting it in and around my normal 9 to 5 working hours.
Yep, absolutely. And I don't think you're the only one in that situation, Mark, so don't panic. Okay. So there is, just trying to think of the best way of putting this. So naturally, our remit is that we have a 16-week boot camp, and these sessions are going to be run. We had to fix the time of these of the live part. Every session that we run live will be recorded. Okay. All the activities and materials will be available afterwards, and I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes. I'm going to just get my team site up and show you the different parts of those, so you can know where to go to get the activities, to get the slides, to get the material, to watch the recordings, all of that stuff. So we'll walk through all of that. Okay. And then regarding timing, so naturally we want you to make sure that you're keeping up with the material. So although it's annoying, there'll be a couple of hours worth of stuff going on each day, whether it's led by myself or by Stephen, or of activities that everyone's completing in that 10 to 12 window whilst we're online. So you can watch those evenings, weekend, you can build up and do them that way. And the most important thing is that we have communication going.
Yeah.
So we need to know that if you're struggling with some of the stuff, or if it's going well, if you need more information about X, Y, and Z, tell us. And if that's a weekly check-in, or every couple, or as soon as an issue arises, let us know, myself and Stephen, or whoever's teaching you that session, and we'll try and make sure that we're giving as much information and support that way. This isn't a certified course in that we're not giving you a certificate or a degree or anything at the end. So it's all about us giving you the tools and techniques and trying to upskill you. But at the end of the day, and trying to help you get an interview or a job at the end of this. But it's down to you how you use that at the end of the day, and it's fully up to you. What career steps or things you do after the fact. So we're not going to require 100% attendance every time, because that's just not practical for everyone. Also, I'm fully aware that even when we go face to face, there are going to be people who either are self-isolating from COVID or have family issues. If they've got children or anything who are self-isolating, I fully appreciate that creates a different level of complexity for attending face to face and the whole session at the right time. So again, we'll be live streaming stuff when we're in the classroom, although the classroom is obviously, as far as I'm concerned, the best place to be to learn. We want to make sure that it's, we're supporting as much as possible with recordings, with streaming, and with the activities being abundantly clear. And hopefully, in fact, I think I might just jump to the teams now, just to show you what that will look like and how we'll run this, and that might give a bit more confidence in that. So in terms of the team site, when you've got the email link to say you've been invited to this team site, and if you join that, it'll land at this landing page here where it'll say in purple IoC skills bootcamp data science, okay, and cloud systems 2021 _ group or GRP. In here we've got a chat window, So any messages that I post, you can see there. If I tag it by using the @ key, then it will send a message to everyone, notification to everyone. If I want to tag individual people, then it will just tag them. So if you have a message that you want to put, just hit new conversation, that purple box there, and then you can start typing. So and then you can tag individual people. So you can tag me. I obviously can't tag myself, but if I were to tag start typing Mark, then obviously it would do from your personal email address to start with. When you've got your BCU email address that's coming up soon, then hopefully in the next week or two, then we'll make sure that everyone's registered through those, and it'll be much easier or seamless communication going forwards and backwards. But if I just start with IoC, then and hit tab, it's got that information, and it's automatically going to message all of you and say to all of you, Ian's just written this message, this notification. So you can type whatever you want in there, and the message will go through. You can also attach files, images, anything that you need to. Okay, so if you need to get in touch with everyone or individual people, like myself, like Stephen, like Rayhan is in here as well, who sent out all of the information and is running and managing both boot camps from an operational point of view and an academic oversight. So that's the general chat area. Now I'm going to set each of you assignments as we go along. Every assignment is generally optional because, as I say, you're not getting a degree or a qualification at the end of this from us. You'll get certifications from Microsoft and from any other partner things that we think are relevant. But I'm going to set you little assignments and activities to do, and that's the easiest way for me to make sure that we house those all and they're all visible afterwards. So I've set an activity already for induction cards. I'll talk about those later on in a couple of slides time, but I can see when people have viewed them, when you've handed them in, and then I can share them out, because the idea is any assignments I set will build into your portfolios and build into the evidence that we need to collect for the Department for Education, who are paying us to teach you and support you. All the evidence that's there to say, here's all the stuff that we've done and all the development steps that these people have done. Okay, so that's the chat window is the general side, and the assignments tab if I've set you stuff to do. Okay, then there's the files tab. This is going to be an important one for you. So there are two sets of files or folders initially that house the relevant files for us: class materials and activities. Okay, now class materials contains we'll have a folder for each week just to make sure it's easier to organize, and then in that week you can see the slides that I'm presenting today, so you can download those and you can view them. You can't edit those because they're part of the teaching materials, and that's why they've been set up that way. But if you just click on the file, it will show you within the Teams app all of the slides that we've got. Okay, now obviously it hasn't got the hopes and fears filled in or any edits that are done because it's uploaded before the session. Okay, if there are big changes in the slides as we go through each of the sessions, then I'll probably re-upload those and say week 1, day 1 after session. But for the most part, they'll be fixed from before. Then we've got our activities folder. Activities again split out by week. So in week 1, there are 2 different activities or things, bits of information that I wanted to put in there. So intro cards and note taking. Okay, so you can get access to those after the fact. When I'm talking about those and you're watching the recorded session later, Mark, then you can go, I need to go and do that activity. Fine, I'll go away, bang that out, get that uploaded if it's an assignment thing, or if it's just a personal development thing, then you can do that whenever you want to and get that sorted. So that's how we use Teams, as on the whole. And then for every session, obviously, you've got invites that have been sent out in terms of the meetings. But if you just open the Teams app to this site, and then it will say there's a meeting going on, hit join, either here in the chat area or in the top right corner. It will say, give you the option to join, depending on what device you're using, if you're using a phone or your laptop or a PC or a Mac or whatever. Okay, so that's the general Teams structure. So hopefully we'll make sure that this works around jobs and things, and that you can get this access what we call asynchronously. So not necessarily by attending the sessions all the time, but if you can turn up to any, please do.
Thank you, Ian. That was my main fear, is the daily attendance, because I know that I won't be able to attend every day. So I'm familiar with Teams and I use it in my day-to-day job.
Great. Perfect.
Thank you.
Great. So the next thing, next fear, well, obviously time is going to be an important one, and I hopefully have covered that off what the main concerns might be. But if you're struggling with concepts, we need to have that open communication. And based on the information that we've seen and the profiling that we've done about all of you as a cohort, it tells us two different things. So we've got this split dichotomy. You're either going to be less likely to ask questions, some of you, and others I view are going to be more likely to ask questions than our standard student cohorts. Now, what I want is everyone to feel comfortable and to just bang out questions and turn off your mics and off you go, but that's never going to happen for everyone. Okay, so I don't bite, I promise. So if you've got any concerns, any questions, something doesn't quite make sense, ping me a message, an email privately, or in that Teams channel, because I guarantee you are not the only person who will have that question. Okay. Struggling to do the numerical side of the course, absolutely valid fear. Numbers, maths, especially if you've not done it for a while, that can be really scary. And I pride myself on the ability to try and explain practically some of the difficult concepts or things that people may struggle with from maths, from the numerical bits, from programming, in a simple applied way that you can then understand and tinker with. So I often like to use little snippets or examples. So get 10 bits of data and let's work out the average of those, the sum of those. Let's try and understand what that means, what it's telling us. Let's create a quick little graph. And what would happen if there was more data, if there was less data, if it was telling you something different. So look at a couple of different scenarios and then give it over to you and say, tinker with it, break it, mess with it. Look at this little program I've written. It does this job. What happens if you change that bit of information? What happens if you change that bit of the code? Does it work? Does it break? What's going on? And it's all about us going, here's some of the standard stuff. You play with it and get comfortable with it. Then come back to us and say, it worked, it did this, it didn't do that. What's going on here? That's what we need. So it's open communication. Okay. Getting your head around Python, hopefully that's sort of been covered in the part of what I've just said about the numerical. And then while attending interviews, it's difficult to answer competency-based questions. Absolutely, I 100% get that, and that is a valid fear because that's the whole purpose of a competency-based question. I teach a first-year module on computer science course called Data Structures and Algorithms, and every year I say to them, this module is important because when you go to interview for a placement or for an internship or a graduate job, they're going to ask you a question to see if you understand computing from a technical point of view. 99% of the questions they ask you are from this module on your first year. It's all about how does this work? What does that do? What does this mean in terms of computer memory? And all of the kids go, yeah, fine, whatever. You know, let's get on with this. How do I pass the module and move on? I think you guys are in a different situation and understand the importance of success at interview and giving a good impression there. So we need to make sure that you're speaking the right vernacular, that you give that confidence, but most importantly, that you've just done some of this stuff before. And that's why I'm talking about this portfolio before, where you can whack it down on the table and say, yeah, I understand data visualization and interactive visualizations and dashboarding. Here's a dashboard I've created. I completely understand Python programming and loops and if-else statements. I've done them. Okay, so that's kind of some of the stuff that we're going to be doing. Bit by bit, we'll be breaking it in week by week. Okay, but it's all about making sure that you're comfortable, and our job is to teach you and upskill you, not to just give you an assessment and for you to move on with a different course. So just to be clear on that, my job at the end of this is to peel back some of these mysteries of data and cloud systems and some of the mysteries and the unusual parts of the job market. Now, some of you will have attended the information session that I did last Thursday, which was sort of framing from an industrial point of view what people are requiring from data specialists. And a lot of it is just what we'd consider as professional skills. And lots of university courses will go, well, they're all professional skills, so you need to be able to present or to do this or to do that and to be able to write good emails and communicate effectively. Okay, so we'll have that as one assessment on one module of our course and off you go. And that's just not going to flash it because we need to be making sure that you're all writing, communicating effectively, managing your workflow, managing your time effectively, being able to present and report important information concisely and clearly. So we're going to be building up your professional skills. Okay, there's going to be less technical stuff in some aspects of this course than you might think. Oh, I really wish I knew how to do X, Y, and Z. Tell us that, and we can see if we can fold it in, or just tell you where to go to learn that. But more importantly, everything that you do, we want you to be able to do some employability factor with that. So we're going to teach you about cloud systems, and then on Friday you're going to be presenting back to me some information that you've researched about cloud systems, and then we'll build up from there. Okay. Creating a presentation, I'm sure lots of people can use PowerPoint or Excel or do X, Y, and Z with that, and maybe that's not you, and that's fine if it's not. But if you think, oh, I can always give a presentation, I've done that all the time, well, let's see if I've got a thing or two to teach you about that. Or if you can help others learn about that from your own experiences and backgrounds. And then there's the getting confident with industry standard skills, so the Python programming, but also we're going to be focusing predominantly on Microsoft for the Azure courses, because that's one of the larger and widely used systems that we're partnered with, and they've given us good teaching materials to support you in that. And the exams are appropriate for this level. There are also other ones, Amazon, Google, Facebook, IBM, have some certifications and some systems and services of their own, but we're going to focus, we had to choose one, so we've chosen Microsoft. If you get familiar with one, you can easily pick up others. Okay, but we just need to build up that base level with all of you. Now, I mentioned briefly before about focal points. Okay, now, given that the chat isn't working exactly for everyone, I'm unsure if this is going to work very well. So let's see. No, it's restricting what we can do, unfortunately. So I was hoping to send out a poll here for everyone to fill in as a little Microsoft form. In the future, I'll make sure these are prepared in advance and just email out, pass out the links to the forms for everyone so that we can collect and curate the data and feedback. Okay, but the Internet of Things is something I talked about in the session on Thursday. If you didn't get a chance to go to that, don't worry, it's been recorded. I can share the link for that after this. But we can apply AI and data skills to a whole host of different areas. I've just listed a few here, for instance, but we can move well beyond that. But I need to know what interests you, what areas you want to see it working in, to make sure that it's relevant for you and the jobs and the experiences that you have. If you're looking to break into a new area, that's fine as well. Absolutely. If you're curious about data science and data and cloud systems in business, we can teach you to that. I can teach you about decision making and trying to identify and maximizing your profit in terms of balancing off different constraints that you may have. Whether you're interested in marketing or digital marketing, for instance, a lot of data specialist jobs are cropping up in digital marketing because there's just a load of information about customers and about online systems, and they like to use Google Analytics or Azure Cloud to try and track what information is being gleaned from their websites and what they need to do to identify the best customers for them. Healthcare is a massively growing area. It's a bit complex to break into, but if you get the opportunity, it's really good. Finance often is an interest for a lot of people studying data, because you might think, oh, I'm going to make a load of money on stocks and shares, or I'm going to invest in a cryptocurrency and stuff. So we can talk about that, but it's one of the less that you're going to easily get a job in. But we like to make sure that we give the opportunity if that's an area that you want us to talk about. Engineering and manufacturing are growth areas for data, especially smart manufacturing is a growing area. And we've done some teaching recently with the likes of Jaguar Land Rover and other partners, and Airbus, for instance, to try and make sure that their teams are upskilled and making the most of data and realizing how big a data problem they have, so that they can then recruit the right teams to grow their data skills and make the most of that in their organization. Then there's education, and edutech is it's very easy for me to say that it's massive because I'm in education, so people are pitching me edutech ideas all the time, but it's a growth area. We curate a lot of data from students and from interactions that we have with them, and I'm at the moment trying to champion fighting for getting the most out of that and the predictive analytics, we call it, to do with my own students. So I'm looking at projects at the moment, research projects, where we get someone's information from their first year of their computer science degree. Can we predict how they're going to perform by final year? If they're going to struggle along the way or not submit an assessment, I want to be able to know that as far in advance as I can. We recently found that there's an almost 100% chance that if they fail a module in term 1, that they're going to fail it in the next module in term 2. So why are we bothering to teach them in term 2? We need to get back to this term 1 issue and go, right, you need to submit. If you don't, let's fix the issues from earlier on in your course and then make sure that you'll succeed in the second half. Now, for these sessions, there's going to be a lot of information, and in order to get the most out of that, you need to be taking notes, and whether that's with a pen and paper or in Word, or just going back over recordings and things. But just being a passive observer isn't going to cut it here. Okay, there's a famous researcher from IBM who often used to say that data science is not a spectator sport. You're not going to get very much from this course if you're not engaging, if you're not taking part, and if you're not taking good notes. Now, I'm not going to go over in lots of detail this because of time, and I don't think it's overly necessary at the moment, but I can dedicate time to this later in this week if people want me to. Now, we at BCU, we champion what we call the Cornell note-taking method. So it's come out of Cornell University in America, but it is a great structured way to take notes and record information that you can then summarize and then build into your knowledge. It's been shown to create more success for students who use that on modules and in general teaching structures. Okay, so this is a blank note-taking page where you put the information, the date, the room. So lots of these sessions will be online at first, and then as they'll be in the room, we'll be using the same room on our Millennium Point campus that's right next to the Think Tank Museum. Okay, but you take notes and structure them in terms of what the study cues were, what the notes are, if you're going to write a summary based on what's generally happening at that period. If it's a recorded session that you're watching, put timings in there. So at 15 minutes and 25 seconds in, Iain started talking about this. That was important because ... Okay, and you'll see the actual notes are there, drawing out stuff if you can, either in a word processor or by hand. Okay, if you don't have access to Microsoft services at the moment, either because of your organization or because of your employment status, don't worry. First of all, if it takes a long time for you to get a BCU email address, then don't panic. We'll get you set up with just free online word processing, PowerPoint stuff, and access to Excel that will be important and usable by the time we get to that part of the course. But as BCU students, we'll also have access online to the standard Microsoft Office packages as well for the duration of your time with us. Okay, so I've shared a link in the Teams site to the Cornell note-taking method. So if I just fling up Microsoft Teams back up here, and then if we just have a look in the Files tab, Activities, Week 1, Note-taking combined. So here's a blank page. So if you're using pen and paper, you can either copy this off or print it off if you've got access to a printer. A few of those for each of the taught sessions, and here's an example of it filled in. Okay, some explanation as to why it's set up the way it is and how to use this effectively. Okay, so after I finish talking, have a look at that, get comfortable with the idea of note-taking in that way, or if you'd rather note-take in a different way, that is absolutely fine. I'm not going to judge. I just want you to be making progress and understanding all of the things here. So I talked in that previous session about the data cycle. So we need to make sure that we've got an appreciation for the whole wheel that we've got going on here of different aspects. But we are going to have focal points and examples tailored into specific sub areas of these. Now, I explained previously in the session on Thursday, and I'll share the link for that afterwards, that previously the data pipeline was restricted to this area of data management, modeling, and evaluation. More on these two even, so data modeling and data evaluation. But more and more you need to make sure that you're appreciating the whole cycle of data here. So specifying a problem and understanding, can we get data that would answer that question or solve that problem for us? If you can't, you need to revisit the problem and go back to the management team that are asked you to solve this problem or to do X, Y, and Z and say, we can do it, but it won't solve the problem, and make that abundantly clear and explain why you can't do that. That's really hard to do, and something that you'll get some experience with over this course, but it's something that will grow in you the more time you spend dealing with data. Then there's data collection, whether we're getting from databases or scraping it from online or from the multiple different sources or creating it ourselves. The data management, so the cleaning of that, getting rid of bad data, getting rid of data that's not worthwhile, if too much has been collected, or identifying gaps if too little has, and then curating it. So getting it in a structured, usable format so that we can get it all at our fingertips for when we're processing it and modeling it and using data visualization. Okay, we want to create a nice simple pipeline from our data all the way up to our communication aspects. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to waste loads of time constantly going back and just getting that bit of data that we want, or that bit, or that bit. We need to make sure that we've got easy access to everything and a clear file structure. Then there's the modeling. So using artificial intelligence tools and techniques to try and model the data and solve that problem that we've specified up here. So we create those models and we design those to do a specific thing. Then we evaluate them. Have they been successful? Do I believe that they've been successful? It's very easy to evaluate something and say it's 100% accurate. I have never come across an algorithm that was reliable when it said it was 100% accurate, though. It's very easy to fool ourselves into thinking our tools and techniques are better than they are. So we need to be critical and to really question and say, I don't believe that until I've seen all of the results, all the information, dug right down into it and evaluated it. Now I believe it. Okay. And then communicating the findings. So we've got a week on data visualization where we'll talk about things like dashboards, interactive visualizations and information that's going on there. And then how we can present that information to solve that problem. So as I said earlier on, we're going to have some sessions that are going to be live and me talking or doing or showing something. So that'll be this week, that'll be Monday, Wednesday and Friday. But we'll be live, although Friday will be more dominated by you guys doing some presentations. Now, tomorrow's activity will be, I will be online and I'll be in this chat and responding to things, but I'm going to set you an activity of a bit of investigative work first of all. So I shared on Thursday these two roles, data analyst and a data specialist, just the two very quick job roles that I found online when searching for those two areas. These are things that you could be doing by the time that you finish your bootcamp. Okay. Now you may not have all of the requisite skills or things that we've covered, but you'd be able to pick those up after what we've taught you and the base level of foundations that we've given you. You'd be able to upskill in some of those areas like Google Analytics and Google Search Console perhaps, and Tag Manager. You'd be able to pick up how to use Tableau as an application quite easily. So the thing is, it's very easy to get stuck on saying, oh, I can't do that, or I don't know how to do this thing for that job. I couldn't apply for that because of X, Y, and Z. We need to break down what the gap is between you where you are now and where that job is, but also what are the terminology, the tools or the techniques that it's requiring of you. What do these things mean, these acronyms that they've specified? What does ROI mean? What's A/B MVT testing? Okay, so what I'd like everyone to do is to go away tomorrow during that 10 till 12 slot and try and find 2 jobs. Break them down. Anytime that they've got an acronym, specify what that acronym is. So search online, find what that acronym means, and make sure that you understand it. If you don't understand it, keep searching or ask me. I'll be online, so you can message me and say, Ian, I found this acronym. What on earth does ROI mean? When I searched it up, it said return on investment. What's that got to do with data? Well, let me tell you. Okay. So by looking at 2 jobs and seeing what the tools, techniques, responsibilities, all of those things that they're asking of you, and making sure that you've broken them down bit by bit, annotated them. Okay, if you can do it in Word or PowerPoint, that's absolutely fine. I don't mind which, or any free online Office version, that's fine too. break them down and make sure that you understand what they're asking of you and that you can explain what each of the parts are. Because then if we know what technical skills they're asking of you, we can then start to specify and say, right, I'm here at the moment with this data skill. I don't know SQL. I don't know A/B testing. I don't know this. So I'd need to learn each of those things if I wanted this job. Okay. Now, try and find 2 jobs that are what we call entry level. So things that you'll be able to get after doing this data skills bootcamp. And don't worry if you can't tell or not, that's fine. I still just want you to spend the time dissecting a job advert. That's the most important activity that we're doing here. Do 2 for at the end of the boot camp that you think, and 1 for 5 or 10 years or 15 years time. So a senior data scientist, data manager, head of data intelligence or business intelligence. Get that advert too. Break that one down. And then we can talk about career planning later on in this boot camp, and you'll get an appreciation for actually, although it's saying a lot of stuff, there's not too much in there that's that different from the head of information services, for instance, and the person doing information handling and data handling and information services. It's about the experience that they've got up there. So we can career plan for you and say, right, you'd get this job, then you'd get this job, then you'd upskill in these few areas, get these skills, build up some project management stuff, and then you'd be there. Because it's very easy to get into a job and get stuck in the 9 to 5 and lose sight of where you want to be going in your career planning. Okay, I'll specify this more clearly and set an assignment for this in Teams so that you can see exactly what I'm asking you to do, but also where to upload it as well, so that we can build that into your portfolios. An activity that I'd like you to do today, by the time I finish, or even tomorrow, before the session if you can, is just a little introduction card. Okay, we're going to be working very closely with each other over the next 16 weeks, and I really would hate for that to be just me, myself or Stephen doing an awful lot of on-camera talking and not much interaction from each of you with each other. Okay, you're all on this bootcamp together. You're going to support each other through this, as well as us supporting you. You're going to get to know each other. You're going to share job adverts with each other. Okay, and if 2 of you are working in the same organization, you're going to support each other when you start there. Okay, it's in this world, more often than not, it's who you know rather than what you know. We can give you the what, we can get you the interview where they're asking you the what, but if there's someone in there that knows you and can put in a good word, that goes a very, very long way, more often than not. It's not right, it's not fair, but it's how the world works, especially in this country. So these intro cards are for you to get to know each other and just share a little bit of a snapshot about yourself. Okay, only put in whatever information you're happy sharing out to this group of people, but in essence I've just shown an example here where you've got my face, so a little headshot picture of me. You can choose just a picture of yourself that you're comfortable with. That's fine. Always good to have a picture on your CV if you can, or on your online profile to make sure that it's clear, because people can then attach a face to a name, and you need to get comfortable sharing an image or a version of yourself online. Okay, you have the complete control of what version of that of yourself that is, but you've got to get your picture out there. Okay, then a brief just introduction. So I've started off with, I'm Iain. I'm interested in using AI in healthcare to try and predict patient outcomes, inform doctors of risks in patients. So it's just what area of AI you might be interested in, and data science and cloud. I'm interested in cloud systems for retail supermarkets. That's fine. So just introduce yourself by name and what area you're interested in seeing this applied in this course. Then why are you doing this course? Just a brief bit here. So I'm doing this course because I want to upskill in running boot camps and have a passion for AI. Some of you are here because you want to upskill. Some of you are here because you want to have a career change. Some of you are here because you want to get a job. That's great. I don't need to know in detail here whether or not you're employed or unemployed. That doesn't concern me too much, but what concerns me more about why you're doing this and getting it down on paper so that you can align perspective with others here. And then just a brief bit about hobbies, really, if you've got any, or anything that you want to share there. So when I'm not keeping an eye on the tip of the spear in AI, I like playing the piano, indie IPA, and there was going to be something else there that I've forgotten to put in. So I honestly can't remember. So I'll edit that out. But in essence, those are just a couple of little hobbies, bits of information about me. If you like spending time with your family, or if you've got kids or something that's important to you, great, share that. Okay. So there's a PowerPoint file inside the Teams site that we've got here. You might have seen if you've gone onto there. So in the activity, if we go just to the general post, I'll go right back to the beginning. Files, activities, week 1, and intro card. So we've got a PowerPoint file in there that's got this information. So you can download this, so open in desktop app if you've got PowerPoint installed, or you can edit if you need to. Just create a new slide there and put your picture in, put your information in, and then what you need to do when you've finished that, download it. So file and save as will let you download a copy if you need to and edit it offline. Then back on our Teams site, I set an assignment for you to be able to upload your induction card. So just that bit of information about yourselves. So go there and there'll be an option for you to just attach the file and upload and then submit. Okay. So it's just for me to have a record of all of those for all of us. But then once everyone's or we've got enough of those completed, I'll make sure that I share those out for everyone on the Teams site so that we can all get to know a little bit about each other. And when you're put in groups with each other, if you need to, you can just have a quick look at the induction cards of your group and get comfortable with who you're working with. Okay, may feel a bit awkward or a bit forced, but we need to get to know each other. So one thing I need to highlight to you all is that there's a great event happening soon in Birmingham. So Birmingham Open Hack was founded in 2019 and it's a hackathon organisation. Okay, we share these a lot with our computing students and you're seen as our computing students now, and we're trying to develop you that way, given that you're learners at BCU. So I want to share this event. It's organised by NASA and it's an International Space Apps Challenge. You don't need to be an expert or even proficient or have any programming skill going into this. Okay. Now there's an event from the 2nd and 3rd of October over the weekend. So if you're interested, just click on this link, the openhack.tech, and it will talk you through what to do, how to turn up, what you'll get out of this. But it's just brilliant to get involved in. Great to put on your CV if you've got involved in it as well. And there'll be a whole range of people from different ages, different organizations, different backgrounds and things getting involved in this. And whether or not you are the best performing team, it doesn't matter. Just by getting involved in this, it's a great experience for you.
Do we have a team from BCU?
So you'll just be going in general, I think, and then they auto allocates teams.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So there'll be industry professionals there. You can showcase any skills or things that you develop whilst you're there, or any of your background, your critical thinking, your talent that you've got. You get to learn a bit and have some fun. So next steps after this, I'm going to share a link to just a primer video. It is about an hour long, so it's quite long. If you don't get the chance to watch that now, don't worry. If you want to stick it on later tonight or just any point over the next week or two, go for that. But I'll share the link to this. It's in the slides and you can also just click this. It's a video done by IBM, who we partnered with. They're one of their lead researchers in artificial intelligence called Armin Pistoshian, and it's just a brilliant explanation and a primer for the background in artificial intelligence, AI and machine learning as a whole, and explains all sorts of different applications, and particularly with a spin from IBM about their Watson system, which you may have heard of. It won the Jeopardy show in the US, which he talks about in more detail there. Okay, but just a great primer. I've talked about the induction cards, so that's the next thing that I'd like everyone to complete by the end of tomorrow's session, if not before. And then tomorrow the activity will be to find at least 2 jobs, to break them apart bit by bit, and to share those and upload those as the assignment. But also I'll be online for you to message and to share any issues with. And then we'll start talking about things like skills gaps. So what's your confidence in the core areas that you've highlighted as issues and skills that you need to develop in these? And then what is your confidence level at each of those? So presenting skill, maybe you think you're an 8 out of 10. Programming, you put yourself maybe at a 2 or maybe at a 0, and that would be fine. Absolutely, this is the start of a boot camp at the end of the day where we're upskilling you, but we need to understand and appreciate where you are right now, and then monitor that over the boot camp to build up that skill and that confidence. So that's sort of the end of the set of slides and stuff that I had to share today. Do we have any questions? Any concerns right now that we need to head off? Anything that you want to share?
Mine will be like the access. It could be that I use 2 email addresses, and my machine has like my daughter's and my son's email address also set up. So I have to check, somebody from the office could not access the chat box and the team link. So maybe I could have the same problem. So I think the access is a concern for me, but I'll try with other email addresses and email you if I'm able to access.
Absolutely, yeah. Just let me know if you have problems accessing. You can see if you're using Google Chrome, for instance, to use the Teams app, then it often tells you in the right-hand corner it has a little circle with that's coloured in and the initials of whoever's supposed to be logged in, and you can change who it's logged in as, or you can do in private browsing, so that removes all the cookies and all the login information previously, and then you can get to us from that.
Okay.
And that definitely won't be logged in as anyone when you start that off.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think for me, Ian, as I kind of mentioned earlier, my attendance will more often than likely, and my completion of coursework will be after the session's complete when I finish my normal 9 to 5. But outside of that, I don't really have any concerns as long as the materials are uploaded and I've got access. So I will today, for instance, I'll complete my induction card, but I may not be in the session in the morning. So I'll have to review the material after, I guess it will have to be after 6 o'clock. So
Yep.
It's almost a case of this, I'll be a day behind, but I will get the work completed, but it'll only be done in the evening, not during the day.
That's absolutely fine. And even if you, given that you'll be doing this in the evening after your full-time job anyway, Mark, so if you're more than a day behind, if you need to, like say you hit Thursday and you think, no, I just need to stop, I can't do the 2 hours worth of stuff tonight, that's fine. Do it, if you want to do that on the weekend or push that to a time when you've got that slot, that's fine as well. But like I say, if we've got an open communication between us with where you are and if you're struggling with anything or need some support, especially when we get to the practical skills in a couple of weeks' time, when we're doing, say, the Excel training, the statistics, the programming in Python. As soon as you hit something, you say, I don't understand this, let us know straight away.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to close off the recording there, and that will then appear in the Teams channel. So you can see where people have posted messages. It'll say, here's the recording. You can just click that, but I'll also email out the recording to make sure that it's clear exactly where it is, and we'll keep a record of all of them.